Welcome back. Never before has Israel been attacked by Hamas via land, sea, and air at the same time. Yet it seemed to happen so fast and with such relative ease. Israeli Defense Forces Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi has acknowledged failures surrounding the brutal Hamas invasion on Saturday, but said now was not the time to investigate what went wrong. But it still begs the question, what caused such a massive failure of intelligence, and why did it take so long for the army to reach citizens in distress? Amos, what's your view?
So thank you for having me. I think there are a three-part answer here. One, clearly there was an intelligence failure. Two, there were obviously operational delays. But I think also more important than that is the fact that there was a decision made to put forces primarily in the West Bank rather than the Gaza Strip. And when we do what we call in Hebrew the day after, I think there's going to very much be a j'accuse with respect to the government, and in particular Prime Minister Netanyahu, who from my perspective bears, from an Israeli perspective, the ultimate responsibility for this horrific, horrendous week that we've gone through, and that without in any way minimizing the war crimes, crime against humanity committed by Hamas. So I think we need to view this from two very different perspectives. And if I may add one more sentence, as somebody who lives here, I live in Jerusalem, the terrible stories we've heard from your guests sitting in the studio, there are no words in terms of the human suffering. I think we need to clearly acknowledge that. My heart goes out to you.
As do ours. In your view, what was behind the decision to concentrate the troops in the West Bank?
It's a reflection of this government's emphasis on protecting the settlers in the West Bank. And from my end, I've written about this, so I can only quote myself. This government has enabled the actions of the settlers in the West Bank. It's part of the political agenda of an extreme right-wing government. And if you put West Bank troops in the West Bank, you leave the southern flank exposed. And your guests who have families in Be'eri, Kfar, Gaza, the government abandoned them, and absolutely abandoned them. It was a conscious decision, and here are the consequences.
One of the theories about that I've heard was that one of the thoughts among military people was that the South, that Hamas wanted to draw a large proportion of the military, of the army, to the south, and then attack in the north when that was uncovered. What do you make of that?
Someone who is here and reads as much as I can, and I'm obviously involved in various ways, and I think you all know that I served for 20 years in the IDF and the JAG Corps, including 3 years as a legal advisor of the Gaza Strip. So I'm really very careful with those kinds of Monday morning quarterbacking. I think the reality is that this government caved in to extreme right-wing pressure, put forces in the West Bank, exposed the southern flank, and that's the consequences are clearly paid by those. I mean, Be'eri is a horrific example of that, but it's not only Be'eri, it's also towns like Sderot, and Ashkelon. And from the perspective of a government caving to its right wing, the consequences are as clear as can be, and it's beyond horrific. The question here is, it's Friday, almost 6 o'clock in the evening. Anybody who's here knows that the question, or there are three questions. One is, will there be a ground incursion? That's one. Two, obviously the fate of the hostages. We've never had these kinds of numbers. And three, an issue we haven't discussed at all, is what's going to happen in the northern front with Lebanon, and whether or not Hezbollah will become involved. And that split the idea between the southern flank, the northern border, and obviously the West Bank as well.
Now, I see the people here at our table agreeing with you, Yair?
Yes, absolutely. I think the government policy has been divisive. I'm a professor of leadership. That's what I study here at McMaster. And when you look at the leadership in Israel, it's been so divisive and leading to so much tensions and undermining the populations of the kibbutzim many times. And now, that has led to these kind of situations where we are feeling that we have to replace the government. A lot of donations that are coming to buy, even here, you can't find socks at Costco because all of the socks were bought by the Jewish community, the amazing effort of the people here in the Jewish community, and were sent to soldiers. But the government of Israel is supposed to provide socks to their soldiers, not the Jewish community of Toronto.
Rabbi Shaner, you're nodding as well.
Yeah, I think that the assessment of the political and the military situation that Amos and Yair have shared is really important. I think that one of the things about this time that has made it so horrific is that we have walked into this with a sense that there is not enough unity in our community and in our people. And I hope every day that things will change for the better in that way. While it's important, I think so many people have contributed to try to help out because they feel connected to Israel, because they feel that they have something that they have to be able to do. I think Yair is absolutely right. It is the government's job to supply its soldiers and its people with what they need.
Very quickly, Steve, you're also nodding in agreement with Amos.
Well, I'm not the expert on what's happening in Israel. I'm not on the ground in Israel, and I'm not going to. What I will say is that Israel is the state of not just Israelis. Israel's the state of the Jewish people. And the unity of Israelis and the Jewish people together, doesn't mean we agree on everything, is critical for both the Jews here and the Jews in Israel. And the one thing I can say, this is the most horrific tragedy that most of us has seen for the Jewish people in our lifetime, unless we were around for the Holocaust. And I can say from decades of working in the Jewish community, I've never seen such unity from my colleagues in Israel in terms of the reaction there of Israeli society, and such unity of the Jewish community here in Canada, from coming together in record crowds to record fundraising to everything else. There's a unity, and God willing, that unity will continue beyond this war.
Okay, we'll be right back with more of the Zoomer.